I vividly remember the exact moment I met Olivia Carter 3 years ago, like it was yesterday. My life was a wreck back then. My apartment had transformed into a swamp because the guy upstairs decided to leave his bathtub running like some absent-minded moron. Water crashed through my ceiling, soaking everything I had, and I was left with no alternative but to crash at my closest buddy Marcus's apartment while the renovations went on. That's where she walked into my world, Olivia, his younger sister. I was sitting on Marcus's lumpy couch, sipping a cheap beer and feeling sorry for myself. Then she breezed through the door. She was lovely, long dark hair, sparkling green eyes that seemed to glitter, and this confident smile that impacted me like a punch to the chest. She didn't just walk into a room. She owned it. "You must be the flood victim," she said, her voice taunting but warm. And I laughed, despite myself. She sat down next to me, closer than she needed to, and started asking me questions about my destroyed apartment, my job, my life, like she genuinely cared. It felt fantastic, you know, like I was the only guy in the world worth talking to. We hit it off fast. Within a week, we were texting nonstop, and at the end of the month, we were dating. Olivia had this way about her, this magnetic pull that made people notice her, want to be around her. At parties, she'd be at the heart of the crowd, laughing, sharing stories, her hands waving as she talked. Guys would hover, handing her drinks, and girls would cling to her every word. I'd watch from the sidelines, delighted she was mine, but also a little apprehensive. She's just nice, I told myself. She enjoys the attention, yet she's with me. From the outside, we looked ideal. Me, the steady guy with a decent job, and her, the vibrant woman who lit up every room. I'd take her out to restaurants, hold her hand, and feel like I'd won something great. She'd lean toward me, mumble something hilarious, and I'd think, this is it. This is what people dream about. But even back then, there was this tiny voice in my brain, silent yet irritating, wondering why she constantly needed every eye on her. I ignored it. Love makes you stupid like that. The first few months were a flurry of excitement. She'd show up at my apartment once it was fixed, with takeout and a bottle of wine, and we'd talk for hours. She had this effortless charm, this way of making me feel important, like I was the center of her existence. But looking back, I can see it wasn't always real. She'd flirt with waiters right in front of me, laughing it off when I scowled. "Relax, babe, it's just fun," she'd say. And I'd let it go. She'd cancel plans last minute, leaving me waiting. But then she'd flash her smile, and I'd forgive her quickly. I convinced myself it was fine. She was lively, spontaneous, the opposite of boring old me. I appreciated that about her. Or at least I thought I did. People would tell me how lucky I was because Olivia was one of a kind. And I'd nod, smile, because, yeah, she was. But that magnetic draw she had, it wasn't just for me, it was for everyone. And deep down, I guess I understood that from the start. I'd lie awake sometimes, listening to her breathe next to me, wondering if I was enough for someone like her. She was always chasing something, attention, excitement, the next big moment. And I was just me, stable, reliable, the guy who paid his bills on time and didn't make waves. But she'd roll over, throw an arm around my chest, and I'd brush those thoughts away. She chose me, I'd tell myself. Out of everyone, she's here with me. And for a while, that was enough. 3 years ago, when we met, I thought I'd discovered the woman I'd spend my life with. I thought I knew her laugh, the way she'd light up when she talked about her dreams. But now, looking back, I realize I didn't know her at all. I saw what I wanted to see. And that was my first mistake. Looking back, the signs were always there, staring me in the face. I was just too wrapped up in Olivia to notice. From the very beginning, she had this way of treating my time like it didn't matter, like I was just some guy waiting around for her to show up whenever she felt like it. Our first real date? I remember sitting at this little Italian place, the one with the red checkered tablecloths, watching my watch every 5 minutes. I'd gotten there early, nervous but excited, wearing a shirt I'd ironed just for her. She was supposed to meet me at 6:30. By 7, still no sign of her. I texted her. Nothing. I called. No response. Eventually, at 7:20, she strolled in, hair unkempt like she'd just rolled out of bed, smiling like it was no big deal. "Sorry, babe. Got caught up with Sabrina," she said, sliding into the seat opposite me. I wanted to be upset, but then she reached across, grabbed my hand, and started talking about her day like nothing was wrong. And I let it slide. Love is about compromise, I reminded myself, sipping my water, nodding along. But it wasn't just that one time. She was late for everything. Dinners, movies, even my birthday party once. And every time I'd wait, feeling like an idiot. But I'd forgive her, because I didn't want to lose her. Then there was her job situation, which should have been a gigantic red flag waving right in front of me. Olivia worked in marketing, or at least she tried to. She'd get hired somewhere, all excited about the creative energy or whatever. But it never lasted. 3 months here, 4 months there, and then she'd quit. She'd come home, ranting, about how her boss was an idiot who didn't understand her vision, or how she left because the job wasn't respecting her talent. I'd sit on the couch, listening to her pace around our apartment, voice getting louder as she tore into whoever she'd just walked away from. "They're all idiots," she'd say, tossing her hair like she was above it all. I'd nod, try to calm her down, maybe suggest she stick it out next time. "You don't understand," she'd snap, and I'd back off. Once she got fired for missing a major deadline. She blamed it on her team, saying they sabotaged her. I wanted to ask how that made sense, but I didn't. I just paid the rent that month, when her half didn't show up. Red flag? Yeah. Did I ignore it? You bet I did. But the worst thing? The way she talked about people. Everyone. All the time. She'd send me these long texts ranting about her life, and half of them were just her trashing someone behind their back. Her best friend Sabrina? An insecure loser who's jealous of me. Her parents? Lazy nobodies who never made anything of themselves. Her old bosses, her co-workers, even random strangers. She had something nasty to say about all of them. I'd read those messages late at night, my phone glowing in the dark, and feel this twist in my gut. She's just venting, I'd tell myself. Swiping past the vitriol, but deep down, I knew it wasn't normal. Spinning, fitting things together, all the money I'd spent on her, all the falsehoods I'd swallowed, all the ways she'd played me. I wasn't going to let it finish with me slinking away. She'd embarrassed me, sure. But I had years of her reckless statements, her broken promises, stacked up like ammunition. I didn't know precisely what I'd do yet, but I knew one thing. Olivia Carter wasn't going to walk away from this unharmed. She built her little kingdom on my back, and I was about to burn it down. Softly, gently, but totally. Marcus dropped me off at my place, and I thanked him, promising I'd explain later. I stepped inside, flicked on the lights, and sat on my couch, staring at the wall. The night replayed in my thoughts. Her giggle, Noah's sneer, the pity in the waiter's eyes. Yet it didn't break me, it energized me. She thought I was a puppy? Great. This puppy was about to bite back. That night, when Marcus dropped me off, I didn't sleep. I couldn't. My head was buzzing, repeating Olivia's giggle, her weak, puppy jab. The way her buddies cackled like I was nothing. I sat on my couch, the room dark except for the brightness of my laptop, and started digging. I wasn't just walking away. Not this time. I'd spent 3 years propping her up, and now I was going to pull it all apart. She built her shiny little existence on my money, my tolerance, my silence. And I was done letting her get away with it. I got a beer from the fridge, cracked it open, and set to work. First up, her car, That damn Mercedes she'd begged me for. I'd been stupid enough to co-sign the loan. Even more foolish, to keep making payments when her solid employment never arrived. I pulled up my bank account, my fingers shaking slightly as I checked the auto-pay setup. There it was, $1,450 a month, straight from my checking to hers, keeping that car on the road. Contacted the bank's 24-hour line, waded through the awful hold music, and finally got a tired-sounding gentleman on the other end. "I need to report financial exploitation," I said, keeping my voice flat. I told him how I'd been forced into covering her loan, how she hadn't paid a dime, even her promises. "I'm canceling the next transfer," I informed him. He asked a few questions, typed some stuff, and said it would be flagged for review. By morning, her payment would bounce, and that car one step closer to repossession. I leaned back, took a slow gulp of beer, and felt a dismal kind of satisfaction. She loved that thing, carried it around like it proved she was somebody. Let's